y'all? Hope it's good in the neighborhood. Sit down, relax, grab your favorite mug, because we're about to serve you some Quali-Tea.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. If it's Monday and you have a nice cup of tea with you right now, you've come to the right place. Thank you guys for joining our third episode, and this segment is today's tipful tea. Ooh, I like that. Spicy. If you've been listening to our last podcast, you would know the last one was a lot of fun. A little heated debate between the movie lover here.
If you made it that far, because the thing was definitely like an hour, we apologize for that. We just got I know I got very passionate about it, so I think it was passion on both sides.
It was, but it was still good. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope if you have to listen to it in parts, do what you have to do. But
ball out.
Anyways, this episode, we're going to be talking about kind of college life, and I know you all have heard the words of introvert and extrovert, am I right?
And we're tired of all those little personality tests that everybody's making us take. Are you an ESTRJ?
But yeah, I know since coming to college, I have taken so many personality tests for classes, figuring, how would I manage? How would I be a leader? How would I do this? How would I do that?
Yeah.
And I think it's true to an extent, but then sometimes when I take those tests, I freak out and I answer differently because I'm like,
Right. You don't want to be that person or put yourself in a box that you really know that you don't belong in or that you think you don't belong in. And it's I shouldn't be trying to put myself in a box for starters. I should just be answering the questions honestly.
Exactly. I just think I lie to myself a little bit when I do this. So whatever the results are, I'm like, is that really accurate? I don't know though. But yes, this time we're gonna give you guys little tips on introvert and extrovertness, how to handle that. I know some people are introverts and they wish they could be more, or extroverts wish they could, stop being so extrovertedness. I mean, I don't know. But we're going to talk about a little bit of that. What's it like on college campuses? I know for incoming students or, freshmen now, you're going to get a lot of, what kind of a person are you? This and that. You have to think about those things, and transitioning can be a little different based on who you were in high school. You could have completely changed. College might change you.
Yeah.
Or you might, work hard to change yourself or whatever. But, so kind of let's start with, Kenny, if you were to guess if I'm an introvert or extrovert, what would you guess?
You are 100% an introvert. No, I'm just joking. Oh. You are most definitely an
Nailed
extrovert.
It.
I feel it in my soul for you.
Yeah, I would consider myself an extrovert a little bit, but I think I'm actually 50-50.
I can definitely see that because I think a lot of people secretly think that the most dominant thing that they show to the public is what they are, but then in private, you're like another person. And sometimes you really just don't want to be bothered. And even when you force yourself to be that extroverted person, your inner introvert is like, bro, I don't want to do this. I need a break. I want to relax. So I definitely understand.
And yeah, I think this is going to kind of lead into what we're going to talk about later in this podcast about the assumptions made when it comes to being an introvert and extrovert. But what does it mean for you when you hear the word introvert, or if you think of someone who says, I'm an introvert, what do you think about that? What does that mean to you?
I think it's somebody who needs to itemize their social time. I don't see it as being somebody who's afraid of people or hates people or gets overwhelmed easily. I think it's just somebody who personally needs to itemize their social interaction. They know their limitations and they know just how far they want to take their social interactions before they have that cutoff point. It's almost like when an RA or some kind of student leader is setting their boundaries. This is the point where you can contact me, but after this point, I don't want to be contacted. But I think just it's essentially saying, I have my cutoff point. These are the business hours that you can contact me during, and outside of business hours, don't talk to me. Because it's just at the end of the day when you come home from a job, you need to recharge so that you can be ready and prepared for work the next day. And I really don't see how that's a problem.
Interesting. So what you told me what your definition of being an introvert means, what do you think Is there, like, definition you hear from outsiders? Like, what's the normal definition you normally get from other people? Is it the same as yours, or is it very
Socially
different?
awkward people who can't do public speaking. That is, I think, the general definition of an introvert. There are some situations where they're probably trying to force themselves using their like reserve fuel where it does make situations socially awkward. But at the same time, you can't blame them because this is outside of those business hours. They're not supposed to be doing this. And so the fact that they're working overtime, it doesn't compensate them because it's not a job like you're getting paid. You're not getting anything from it. If anything, you need more time to recharge because you're burning yourself out. And then I think everybody's secretly afraid of public speaking. Like I know people who public speak all the time, but they like get nervous to talk in class or whatever. I mean, it really just depends. I think public speaking is just intimidating in general.
I would definitely agree. So I think, as we've gone on in life, I definitely think people are very intimidated by getting up in front of a group of people or just even a few people and having to talk and present anything, whatever it is. It is a big thing. It's scary. I would definitely agree with when I hear the word introvert, and what I'm normally hearing from other people is, socially awkward people don't know how to talk or scared of speaking. That's what I commonly hear. And I think that's a big assumption, kind of a big stereotype. And I definitely agree. There's definitely senses, like, there's situations where that's definitely a thing. People are scared of talking. People just don't feel comfortable putting themselves out there socially. It can be hard. But my next question is, why do you think that is? Like, why do you think we have such a very generalized, stereotypical assumption of introverts, thinking they can't talk to people, or they're scared of public speaking, or they're just weird and have no friends? Quotes on the weird, that's just what people assume. Why do you think we do that?
I think it's because social institutions have made it so we target certain personalities. And when we target those certain personalities, we pull out the traits that are the most prevalent that we notice. Half the time it is because, they're on those reserves and they're burning themselves out. So they seem socially awkward because they're like, hey, I really don't want to do this. But they can't say that because that's rude, you know? Like I said, general fear for everybody. And so when you get afraid to speak publicly, or, you have a little anxiety about talking to even like a small group of people, I think that they find some way to set that apart as being dominant personality trait of your socializing style, when really it's just something that happens to everybody. But I don't think they really consider that, because some people are just like, well, let me just get this over with and do it. But not everybody has that kind of energy to really say, like, I'm just going to get it out of the way so that I don't have to worry about it later. You know what I mean? So I think it's more so just about people targeting certain aspects of other people's personalities, putting those at the top of the list rather than taking the entire list and seeing, like, what actually is a part of the entire grocery list of what's going on with their socializing style.
I can definitely see where you're coming from. That makes a lot of sense. I think when it comes to introverts, would you agree with this, that we put a negative connotation to that?
I definitely think so.
I think we definitely drag the introverts, man.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying like we, like me and Kenny. Me and Kenny are perfect. We love everyone.
Absolutely.
But I mainly hear a lot of negative when it comes to introverts.
Yeah.
And we can relate this to like group projects, social clubs, like on campus, or jobs in general. Like when you hear the word introverts, I feel like we think introverts are not going to be able to handle this stuff.
Right. I feel like the term introvert is paired along with the word inept. And I feel like those two should really be separated, because just because you prefer to keep to yourself, or you prefer to have your cutoff when you think it's time for you to not socialize anymore, that shouldn't mean that you're incapable of speaking to people, period. It just means you don't want to do it anymore. Dag, I wish I had the freedom to be like, I don't feel like talking to people. I'm ready to go home and be at home. But sometimes you just can't do that. And it's very difficult, because another thing that constrains people's social interactions is the fact that being too honest, people see a problem with that. And so when you say, I really just don't feel like socializing right now, people think you're some kind of alien or something, when really you're just as human as everybody else.
They get hurt over it. Like,
I'm hip.
You don't want to talk to me? You want your alone time and space and to be by yourself right now?
Like,
what?
Wow. And then when you literally scream at somebody because you're like, can you just leave me alone? I think that does 10 times more damage than saying, I just don't feel like socializing right now. And when you push people to those like outer limits where they have to start aggressively setting their boundaries because they know that their boundaries are getting very close to being crossed over. I think people's sensitivity towards certain sayings really keeps people in a box in terms of how free they want to be about being honest about their socializing. If I really don't want to talk to people, it's very nerve-wracking to try and muster up the courage to say, hey, like, I don't feel like talking today at all. Because, like you said, people get hurt about it and it's not them, it's you. But then that saying also has formed its own negative connotation because everybody feels like it's a lie and that it really is them and that you're having your own issues, but you're letting your issues project out onto them, and that isn't fair. But really, it's not fair that they're not understanding that you do have issues too, and that it really is you, and you just need that personal break.
Yeah, I would say that we're getting a lot of, for the introverts who might be listening right now, in your,
I'm trying to advocate for y'all so hard because I really can relate.
I'm a stereotype y'all so hard right now. You're in the corner, away from all the groups of people, listen to this podcast right now. I'm just kidding, but... just kidding, just jokes, just horrible
Y'all are
jokes.
our friends.
But we've talked a little bit about, kind of the negatives of introverts and what we hear, the negative assumptions and the just kind of the bad we put on the word introverts. But what are the benefits of it? Like, there are benefits and there are pros to being more on the introverted side. Like, can you go in on that?
I think it's a beautiful sense of having control over your own life. It is very difficult having to constantly force yourself into being social situations when you have the ability to know when you want to stop and when you want to start. I think it's amazing being able to have that power over your social life. And I feel like for a lot of people, it's very hard to grasp how far they want to go with where they want to socialize. It's beautiful to have the capacity to be alone and have a positive experience from being alone because some people don't. Like, being alone is like their worst fear. And there's nothing wrong with those people. But to be okay socializing when necessary, but also being just as stable on your own is something to be proud of yourself for. I don't think there's anything wrong with being an introvert. I don't think there's anything wrong with valuing your alone time. And I think that you do probably rejuvenate best when you are alone. You have time to organize your thoughts. You have time to process. You have time to reflect. You have a lot of time to do things that if you otherwise were in a room with other people, you might get distracted from doing. So I think it's good to be able to be presented with social situations, but also be presented with yourself and know how to navigate both.
Wonderful. Beautiful. I would definitely say, to my introverts out there, y'all are powerful. Don't let anyone tell you different. Don't let them drag y'all.
Y'all are out here bugging and thugging.
And then I also think, introverts, maybe they're not even necessarily, like, lonely at all. I don't even think that's the case in a lot of the times. When we think of introverts, we're like, oh, they're just lonely people. They like to be alone. I mean, not always the case. I mean, I think they value their alone time. But I know from my friends who are introverts who explain their side to me, they're like, listen, I like hanging out with people. I love my friends and this and that. Like, but it's exhausting is what it is. Like, and I just want to be in my own bubble for a little bit. I like to have my space and my comfort to do what I want to do, to just be with just me. And they're like, but it's not saying I don't want to be alone forever. I don't want to be by myself. They're like, no, I enjoy the company. I enjoy getting out there and getting involved. But I like being alone and having my time just as much.
Yeah.
So I just think there are all kinds of different types of introverts. We have to work on trying not to put them in the box, like you said, where we just keep saying, oh, introverts just can't talk. They don't like to talk to friends or put themselves out there because they're scared. They don't have public speaking skills. That is beyond wrong. A big assumption, big stereotype that we definitely need to work on. And
we need to put that in a box and bury it and never bring it back out. And
burn it.
Yeah.
Burn it to the ground.
Just put a pin in it and throw the whole thing away.
But I also think one of the benefits of being on the scale of an introvert is I think introverts get stuff done.
I tell you what, when y'all got that alone time and once you've recharged, you're at like your optimum level. All you got to do is say, can you do this for me? And it's done, like flat out. Because you've had that time to be to yourself. It's almost like a rechargeable battery. Like once you put your phone on 100%, that joint is ready to go. All you got to do is open it up and it's like, what can I do for you?
Y'all get it done.
Big facts.
But let's leave the little introverted bubble and move on to the extroverts.
LOL, gang, gang.
I know we seem more excited. That's just because we're extroverted. I'm just kidding. But yeah, so what does it mean to be an extrovert to you?
I think it's just to understand that your connection with people is more broad than you actually really understand it is. It's just being able to understand that people are your way of self-caring, but they're also a way you know that you can connect with others. Does that make sense? You know how to make connections, but those connections with people rise above most things for you just because you know the positive impacts that it has on your life. And it probably pushes you forward a lot more than it does anything else. So I know that that's what it does for me.
I'd say for me, when I think of extrovert and I think of myself as an extrovert, I love people, love being around people. That's where I am in my prime. That's where I feel I'm thriving, is when I'm around a bunch of people, good close friends. I'm getting involved and I'm just up in front talking.
Yeah.
I love, I don't know if I want to say I love the attention or just having that spotlight, or I just love the interaction and the relationships being built and the connections. I really love that part of it. But I will, admit, like I said earlier, I am not 100% an extrovert. I do like to be in my own bubble sometimes. I like, alone time. And also, as an extrovert, I'm not, if I'm at a party or something, or at like a social event or whatever, and there's a bunch of different people I don't know, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be very scared to go up and just start a conversation. That's something I want to work on myself.
No, I really understand that.
To stop being so timid. I'm like, just go talk. Like, opportunities. These are people, like, imagine if someone came up to you to just strike up a conversation, because they're like, oh, hey, like, who are you? Like, what's your name? Like, genuinely interested. I think on my end, I would love if someone did that to me.
Yeah.
So I try to think, like, be positive, like, they'll think the same thing if it were vice versa.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely my introvertedness, or, to me, my introvert, I'm like, I'm too scared to go talk to them, so I'm going to stay over here.
No, I definitely get that. Like, I don't know if I'm 50-50, but I'm definitely like 75-25. Parties make me nervous. Nervous is, I don't know what, like, I literally have given speeches before to tons of families. I'll never forget last year, I gave the speech for Admitted Students Day. I looked so cool on top, but like underneath the podium, I had to keep moving my legs because my knees were like clacking together. It was so bad. It's situations like that. Like, I know that, I'm not really a big partier. I'm definitely more of a social gatherings kind of person. When I can see all the people in the room and I know where all the walls end, that's when you've got me like in a good place. If I'm at the function and I see so many people that I can't tell where the front door was that I came in, that makes me very nervous. Oh gosh, I'm really like stuck in the middle of the ocean now of all these people and I can't find my safe place. You know what I mean? Like, when I can see those four walls and I see a bunch of people, I'm like, okay, I know there's at least one place where I can go in case I do get overwhelmed. I can go over to this area where there may not be as many people, where I really need to like take my time to sit back and observe what's going on. And these big old functions, boy, I cannot.
It is
I be getting stressed out. Like, it's all fun and games until I'm tired and I want to go home. And so I'll be ready to exit.
Yeah, I would say, like, it's crazy because I love people, love being around people, but also I don't like crowds. I'm just like, so many arms, so many legs. I don't like it.
I went to Clementine, like this place in downtown Harrisonburg. Yo, and it was like we were getting lit and everything, but after a while, people kept bumping into me. A drink fell on my foot and like got on my shoes. I was like, nope, it's time for me to go home.
My introvert is screaming, go home.
I'm hip. I don't even care if my track dropped. I'm ready to leave.
Just take me home.
I will turn up to it in my car alone where I can really get lit.
I totally understand. I think that happens a lot to me.
Yeah.
I just have to find that balance a little bit. But kind of moving forward a little bit, when it comes to extroverts, there's more of a positive connotation to extroverts. I think it's very like, oh, they're really good at talking to people. They're really good at putting themselves out there, doing this and that. Which I think there's definitely pros to it, of course. But what are some of the cons you think of being an extrovert? When you hear, oh, they're an extrovert, or just being an extrovert yourself, what are kind of the cons you notice?
Being an extrovert is really physically taxing on, like, I don't want to say your morals, but sometimes things that you like hold yourself to. If you said today, I'm going to stop doing this stuff at this time of day. I'm going to take out time to do this for myself at this time of the day. Being an extrovert, you may run into like 600 people that you know, and then that 600 person shows up right at the time where you said you're going to stop doing everything. But deep down inside, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to this person. I have to engage with them, and I have to make sure that they get the attention that they deserve from me. You know, I think it diminishes the self-care that you're able to do for yourself. Even though, like, sometimes it is self-care for you. But sometimes it's really exhausting to want to do things for people all the time, to the point where you kind of forget that you are important too. I think that's one big thing that introverts kind of struggle with, is like understanding self-care when they're alone. It's like,
You said introverts?
I'm sorry, extroverts.
She's
But
confusing herself.
LOL. Sorry, y'all. But no, I think one big thing for extroverts is understanding like self-care and the positive effects it has on them when they are alone. Like, a lot of extroverts are contingent upon the fact that I need people to make me feel good. But when those people stop making you feel good, like, you kind of wonder, like, what else is there? There's still you, and you can make yourself feel good. I know that I personally struggle with that. I feel like an absolute butthole when I don't say hi to somebody who's walked by me. You know, I could be in the middle of a conversation with somebody, but I literally have to stop that conversation so I could say hi to these 3 people that I know that walk by. It takes a toll on your emotions too. You want to be out there and you want to be with these people all the time, and you want them to know that you acknowledge them and that you value them, because you put these relationships at such an important point in your life. You want to make people know that they're valued and that they are important to you. But it's difficult to do when you're trying to engage with people at the same time. You feel like you just need more and more and more. It almost doesn't feel like you can ever satisfy yourself. And I think that's the problem with being an introvert. It's just not ever enough for you.
You said introvert again.
Oh, I did? Oh, gosh. Dang it. Guys, this has been a long day. I would need some sleep. Everything's great.
She's been a
We're
big
living.
extrovert today, so
My
she keeps
introvert
saying
is
introvert.
like trying to put itself out there and be like, guys,
Please recognize me and take care of yourself.
I need a nap.
So if you guys got confused along the way, it's okay. Kenny did too.
It's fine. It's fine.
This is why we're talking about this.
I
stuff.
feel like introvert just rolls off the tongue easier. Is it just me? It just comes out a lot easier than extrovert. I think the fact that you have to do the X part,
it's exhausting.
Right.
I'm
Extrovert and
exhausted.
exhausting are hand in hand.
I can't just say the word. It's so but that's very it's definitely insightful for your perspective and what you experienced. I think the benefits of being an extrovert, what I think it is that, you know, you are good with people, and, you know, when it comes to building relationships, it can be much easier, and I think it can be better for you, and, like, it means a lot to you as an extrovert.
Yeah.
I think the negatives that we kind of put on being an extrovert is that extroverts don't get undone. I would say that's like one of
Procrastination goes way too close with being an extrovert.
we're very social, and like you were talking about how you feel like you have to say hi to everyone. It's like an obligation, and I would definitely say I struggle with taking time for myself because I'm always like, oh, people, I have so many friends, I know so many people, like I want to hang out with everybody and give everybody some attention that I forget about myself, and then I'm exhausted. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I know we made plans.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll still hang out with you, but
Right. We try to like satisfy the void in the people that we care about, their lives, but how do we satisfy the void in our lives?
yeah, I definitely would agree with that for sure. It's one of the big struggles as being an extrovert. You know what I'm
we got
saying?
problems, y'all. It ain't all sunshine and rainbows.
It ain't. But you know, if you guys are wondering why we're like talking about introverts and extroverts, you know, if you're sitting, you know, behind listening in, like, what's the point of this? Well, I think it's important to be aware of what being an introvert or extrovert or whatever you feel you fall more on the scale of that. You could be in the middle. You can be more of an introvert, extrovert.
Yep.
But I think it's important to be aware of it and what it means to other people, because I think it's going to make it a lot easier to be understanding in any aspect. Like, think of it in school, group projects, here on campus. Working with different people and different personalities and like who they are is a challenge. So the reason we're talking about this, and you know, it's important because it's going to help you understand. I know, you know, I put introverts into a box when I was in high school, and then coming here at Bridgewater, I've kind of learned what being an introvert means to different people. I've recognized the introvert in myself, and it's becoming easier to kind of put myself in other people's shoes and just understand, okay, I see why you're like this.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. Not saying it still isn't difficult, but saying it's more understanding for me. It helps me, you know, understand.
Yeah. I think at this point I've developed a broad understanding just because I think in my life I've been primarily both, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I haven't been exactly 50-50. From the time up to, like, I was a junior in high school, I was definitely an introvert. Public speaking was not my thing. I had a select group of friends, and so when I was done talking with them, I was done talking with them. I was like, yo, guys, I'm going to go to class now. I'll see you later. And that was my socializing for the day.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't keep to myself. I hung out sporadically, and when I wasn't hanging out, I was doing stuff for myself. That was when I like really got into the first time I got into Dawson's Creek before I made it my entire life. Anyways,
no. More movie madness.
just in case
TV
y'all want to
shows.
know how dedicated I am to this show. But anyways, I was definitely more comfortable being alone just because that was my safe place. And then I got like a head injury my junior year of high school, and like my whole personality did like this weird flip. I went from being kind of nervous about speaking in crowds to being like, I always like to talk to myself now before I have to say something big in front of a large group. I'm like, Kennesha. Like, I always refer to myself by my first name because I know that like intimidates me, but it'll push me forward. I'm like, Kennesha, stop hyperventilating. You're fine.
Oh no, you mom yourself.
I'm hip. I have to have like mom Kenny come out and handle all the stuff that the other Kennys are
Uses
doing.
the first, middle, and last name to get herself together.
Kennesha Maria,
no.
get your life to get. Now y'all know the secret. Y'all know what my middle name is. Don't tell nobody. Don't tell your friends.
Shh.
This
keep that tea
this
between
is
us.
top secret, classified. We're gonna put it in a Ziploc bag and put it in the back of the freezer so that nobody steals it at night while you're asleep.
And don't say none. Would you hear? Nothing.
Exactly. Y'all hear them crickets? I do too.
Yeah.
So I
Cricket.
definitely.
That's a bird, right? I was definitely about to be like, tweet, tweet. that wasn't right.
Crickets be making like their own noises. No, I definitely like give myself a pep talk before I do stuff. I still get nervous to like raise my hand in class. Everybody's like, oh, Kenny, like, who don't you know? Yeah, like low key, I guess that's kind of true. But also, like, sometimes I really don't feel like talking. And like when I have my headphones on and I'm walking around campus, that's kind of like my break from socializing. Even though I don't mind taking them out to talk to people. Some days I don't want to take them out, but I take them out anyway because I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to feel like crap if I don't say hey. I definitely walk like a delicate balance between the two, but I'm glad that I've had the experience of being predominantly both at some point, just because when I have friends who are introverts and they're like, or I'm like, hey, do you want to hang out today? And they're like, I'm not really sure. I'm like, do you need time to yourself today? Because I don't mind if that's the case. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yes, I really do. And they feel 100% better knowing that somebody can understand that that's what they need. It's not that they mean to not want to be with you, but they just want to make sure that you're aware that this is what they needed. And it definitely makes people feel at ease to know that somebody really understands them.
Excuse me while I just sip on that tea, because that was truth right there. I definitely agree with 100% with what you're saying for sure. And, you know, kind of moving in towards the end of this, what do you think? Do you have any tips for people who might want to change or improve, you know, whatever they are? Like, say an introvert wants to become more extroverted or vice versa. Mm-hmm. You know, what are your tips for the introverts who want to put themselves out there more or fall more on the extrovert scale? Do you have any tips for them or your own ideas based on your experiences and understanding of it?
Honestly, if you're an introvert who's trying to become more of an extrovert, try and talk yourself out of that fear that you get just before you want to do something. If you say in your mind, oh gosh, I really want to do this thing, but I'm nervous. Try to talk yourself out of it. Even if you have to like mumble to yourself and just say, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Talking to yourself, I think, is an underrated ability that we as people have. It's amazing what you can teach your brain to do and then make your body feel. Because you can be nervous as I don't know what about something. I used to have to talk myself into doing every speech that I did in oral comm, and I'd have to sit there and recite the speech to myself. I couldn't listen to anybody else's speech because I'd forget everything. So I'd have to like literally hold my ears and I'd be like, Kenny, you can do this. Kenny, you can do this. Kenny, you can do this. It's fine. You know what you want to read. Go over the note cards again. And I'd be sitting there having like a whole breakdown. But once I went up there, I was like fire. Boom. Sprinkle the salt on the meat and ball out.
Dynamite.
I think that talking to yourself, as crazy as it sounds, is one way to get yourself in control of the way your body might be making you feel towards something that you want to do. When you know that you're like a nervous sweater or something, or you're one of those people whose stomach gets really riled up, sit down and try and talk yourself out of what you're doing. Because everything that your body does is in response to what your brain's telling it to do. And if you can educate your brain to make your body work like you want it to, then your conflicting feelings that you have with what you want to do and what you can do don't seem as bad. Does that make sense?
Perfect sense.
LOL. This has been a long day, bro.
I know it has. You're doing great. You can go back to your room, cuddle up in your blankets, and not talk to someone for the rest of the night. I know.
It's fine. I'm like balancing on sleep deprivation and having stuff that I have to do. And that's a completely different story that we're also going to talk about because college students be struggling. But that is for another episode for another day.
Just keep Kenny in your prayers at the
Y'all
moment.
got to forgive me. This has been a week.
But yeah, I definitely think you made some great points on tips to help people who want to, fall further on another scale or just kind of change a little bit. And I would say for extroverts who maybe want to become more introverted, just really, really try and understand, yourself and be aware of how you're feeling. And as hard as it is, if you really have that desire to please people and feel like you're obligated to them, you're not, you're not. There's always a respectful way to go about it. And if people don't understand, then I'm not really sure. You can only do your best to explain how you're feeling and just hope that they'll understand too.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. Some people just don't. They take offense to it. If you're like, not today, or I just want to take some me time. They might not understand it, but then there might be some people who do.
Yeah. I think if you're an extrovert trying to understand an introvert, force yourself to be alone more. You have this power when it comes to being around people, but try to give yourself the freedom to exercise that same power being alone. It's not the worst thing in the world to sit down with yourself and enjoy being with yourself. See if you can find that same satisfaction you get from people by being alone. A lot of times, you'll find that it's very gratifying being by yourself. And then you could be like, oh, okay, so this is what my introverted friends feel like when they mean that they're recharging. Like, I understand now what they mean when they say, I just need time to get myself together. And you understand what that kind of feels like once you're done and you've realized that it's actually helped you more than you thought it would.
This has been some great quality. Really
I definitely think so. This was a nice flavor.
This was informative.
It was an interesting flavor.
It was informative. I hope you guys really got something out of this.
I really hope y'all did too. And even though I stumbled across every other word and I have no idea what I'm talking about, I hope y'all know what I'm talking about because LOL, it'd be like that sometimes.
It do be like that. But I think overall the message we're really trying to say here is that I would like to say that I'm not generalizing introverts and extroverts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm aware of the generalizations I've had and what I've heard from outsiders and things like that. I'm really working on, trying to understand better of myself and those around me. But the big message is that I don't think there's one definition of what it is for each person. I think it looks different for everybody. An extrovert could be just a social butterfly. Or an introvert could be someone who just doesn't want to be around people. Or an introvert could be, someone who's just I just like to do things by myself. I don't like to do group work. I'm very self-oriented. I like to do this. Whatever it means to you, it's no wrong or right in my opinion. It could mean something totally different to you. The things me and Kenny have said, you could either agree or you could disagree. Whatever, that's totally understandable and go for it. I just think the big message I'm trying to send out here is that, be aware of where you fall and what it means to you, because that's important, but also be aware of what it looks like for other people, because it looks different for everyone else, and being able to understand it is going to help you in any aspect of life. Friendships, relationships, family, work, school, whatever it is you do, there's going to be different people and different meanings to this. So I just think, I hope you guys have, this podcast was able to help you understand yourself better. And, even kind of think for yourself on what it could look like for other people.
Be proud of who you are and who you are being. But never be so up in the clouds about who that person is that you can't come down and try and understand what somebody else is going through.
I hope you all enjoyed this tea today. It's very important. Tipful tea. That's what it is. That's what we're about today, baby. We love
We're
it.
sipping. We're sipping.
We're sipping, relaxing. This is informative. But yeah, carry this to whatever it is you choose to do. You know, maybe you'll move differently after this. I don't know.
Sit down and have some thorough conversations with your friends. If you know you're having some difficulty understanding like where they're coming from in terms of how they're communicating with you, try and reach out to them. You know, what's up? Like, tell me what's going on with how we're working together in terms of how we're communicating. What is your communication style like so that I can understand what I need to be doing to accommodate you and vice versa?
Exactamundo, baby. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope it was really informative for you guys and you guys got a lot out of it and, you know, can move forward. And I hope it helps better your understanding for yourself and others. And, you know, this has been Quali-Tea. Stay tuned. Every Monday night, we're dropping a new episode.
That's the tea, that's the tweet.
That's the tea, that's the tweet. And shout out to TJ Covington for the sick beats.
That's my resident, y'all.
Shout out TJ. Once again, he's got that music production club. Get involved. Shout out to TJ. You're a king. You know, stay tuned for this beat drop that's about to come in at the end of this podcast.
Elite.
But anyways, thank y'all once again. See y'all next Monday. This is Lexi.
This is Kenny.
And this has been
The Quali-Tea.